our first Players' Championship.
Largely off the back of modern results.
Yeah. At the time, it was Kiki Chord that you'd see a lot of.
This deck a bit different from that one.
So, turn 1 Delver from Jeff. Mentioned how important that was. For Sam Graebner, just in case we thought that a Mana Leak or a Remand might be live this game, he'll start turn 1 Cavern of Souls into Aether Vial.
They're always going to have it. You just you can't lean on your counter spells at all in this matchup.
And we have Thalia off a second Cavern for Graebner. Pass over, and Jeff says go. No removal spell, but now he'll find one. Turn 3, that Delver will transform off a revealed Lightning Bolt.
Yeah, no removal spell in the end step. That is going to knock Jeff a little bit off tempo. Not having any 2-turn play is a problem, but he does still have the Aberration, which is the primary box for him to check, and he was on the play in this game. Sam is certainly looking to get a Reflector Mage online.
And we have a 3-drop. It is not a Reflector Mage. It's Militia Bugler. You mentioned this in the card, a 4 of in Graebner's build. Top 4 can take a creature with power 2 or less.
Like this Reflector Mage.
Yeah, I would say that is pretty strong here. He'll go ahead and grab that Reflector Mage. Next turn, it'll be available off Caverns or Aether Vial. And Thalia swings in. We know Jeff has the Lightning Bolt for it. Will he spend it?
Seems like as good a spot as any. The concern with this Vial on, too, is Sam might just Vial in a Phantasmal Image and copy the Thalia in response to the Bolt so that he just gets to have a Thalia still. And Thalia is quite good at taxing Jeff.
Well, he's going to Vial in Thalia's Lieutenant. And we'll see if that's enough for the Lightning Bolt from Jeff.
Yeah, now Sam's all tapped out, and you kind of do want to answer the Thalia at some point.
Yeah, I guess if you're not bolting it now, you're more or less saying you're never going to bolt it.
Kind of the other thing about this, though, is that Militia Bugler is about to have 4 toughness. That's a big weakness for Jeff's deck, so that's going to give him some pause.
So Thalia is bolted down. Jeff stays at 20. What I'm concerned here, I think, on Jeff's side, is whether he'll be able to keep pace. That Vial's about to take up to 3, and Sam has another Bugler and Reflector Mage in hand. That's a ton of cards to be able to make onto the board. Yeah,
and you want to think about what Jeff must have in hand to not have any action on 2. Could very well be a Snapcaster Mage. There is also the possibility that his hand is glutted with some counter spells, though.
Right, now the way this game's shaping up, if it's counter spells, those are not going to play at all.
Against this double Cavern of Souls Aether Vial setup? Yeah, most likely not.
Activates Aether Vial. Reflector Mage will put the Insectile Aberration back into Jeff's hand.
And because of the way Transform works, Jeff can cast Delver of Secrets next turn.
Right.
But resetting that transformation is a big deal.
Right, so yeah, because the card's name was Insectile Aberration. I mean, Jeff can't cast that, but that's not a real thing. We do see Meddling Mage from Graebner. In response, Jeff will Snapcaster Bolt down the Thalia's Lieutenant.
Not terribly surprising to see that being a card that would have been in Jeff's hand on the second turn of the game when he had no action.
But Militia Bugler, that Vigilance coming into play here, swings on in as a 3-4, and Jeff goes to 17.
And Sam's leftovers seem to be another Bugler and a Horizon Canopy.
That's not bad at all.
Especially when you're just ahead on the battlefield. And if he could find another Reflector Mage on this turn, either Bugler into it or just draw it naturally and Reflector Mage the Delver on this side, that's going to put Jeff significantly off tempo.
All right, now Sam, that Meddling Mage here, has been set to Snapcaster Mage.
That's about the best card in Jeff's deck, so...
Militia Bugler from Sam Graebner. Jeff will remand it.
He will cycle remand. You hate to see it, but that's about the best value he's going to get out of that card.
Do we have another remand coming? Jeff's cracking a fetch land.
Ugh.
Yes, we do.
4 mana, rummage twice. Ugh.
You know, at least he was able to do this. If Sam was only using the Aether Vial, this wouldn't even play.
Yeah, but the thing is, Sam's going to be using the Aether Vial too, most likely.
Some good options here for Sam off the Bugler. He has, looks like Phantasmal Image is one of the options.
You can just kind of go off by imaging Buglers.
He's going to go with Kitesail Freebooter, actually.
Yeah, that's a fine one. He still has that Horizon Canopy, so he could cast this one, get a look at Jeff's hand. We know that Jeff had to draw that Lightning Bolt earlier.
Right.
So if there's another removal spell, it would have been picked up just now.
Freebooter takes Mana Leak. That's not a card.
Well, neither is the rest of Jeff's hand. He has Mutavault, Grim Lavamancer. Lavamancer's fine. It won't do anything immediately. I suppose there's a window where if Sam doesn't draw Thalia's Lieutenant, the Lavamancer can start going to work on some of these things, but a lot of these creatures just naturally have 3 toughness. Reflector Mage, Militia Bugler. There's the 3/4 Bugler already online. This stuff's all a problem for Jeff.
Swing for 5 from Sam Graebner. Jeff down to 11. And he will transform his Delver a second time. This time reveals Opt.
If he's going to win this game, I think transforming on that turn was pretty essential.
Yeah, right now, if you look at the race, Jeff could come back here. Sam's hand is empty outside of that, and outside of the Horizon Canopy in play.
Yeah, he'll get a natural draw on the Canopy to look for something, but as it stands now, Jeff has a couple blockers, that Mutavault, that Snapcaster Mage that can stem the bleeding a little bit. The Lavamancer can start plucking away some of the smaller creatures. And Sam's draw for turn was just a land.
We'll try again off Horizon Canopy. That finds an Aether Vial. Plays another Horizon Canopy and cracks it. Finds another land, and now we're out.
Yeah, that's a bunch of junk.
And this, I'm kind of, I think, on Sam's spot. That Kite Sail Freebooter off the Bugler looked pretty decent at the time, but he had the option of Phantasmal Image, and right now, another Militia Bugler looks like it may have been the better play.
Yeah. I understand the motivation there, where it felt like, Jeff was digging for a removal spell. If he found one, it could have had an impact on the texture of the game, but you're right, the Freebooter is looking pretty weak here.
All right, a swing here, and now Jeff will activate that Wandering Fumarole. We're going to see Insectile Aberration trading with Militia Bugler. Fumarole blocking a Bugler and casting Opt. Yeah, Jeff just looks like he's trying to stabilize with this Grim Lavamancer. And don't blame him, that looks pretty nice here.
Yeah, it just can target the Freebooter and the Meddling Mage, clean that up, and then the Reflector Mage, it can't punch through multiple blockers here. And there's another Delver Secrets for Jeff.
Plenty of resources. 6 cards in Jeff's graveyard.
And pretty clear avenues to getting that Mutavault and or that Snapcaster Mage in the graveyard as well. Not to mention that the deck has a number of cantrips, your Ops, what have you, fetch lands.
Yeah, and by the way, going back, there was that 3/4 Bugler. Jeff did use the 0 ability on Wandering Fumarole to change it into a 4/1 to make that trade happen.
Yeah, given the mana inefficiency, just blocking with the 1/4, not ideal. I do like the trade there.
But what I really like is that Sam has drawn Phantasmal Image, and both Militia Buglers are off the battlefield right now.
Yeah.
If it were there, I mean, that seems like it would just be the card you'd want to copy.
Yeah, the other stuff is not worth too much here. He can copy the Reflector Mage. That can reset the Lavamancer for a little bit, but he's not protecting much of consequence.
Well, I think there was what I'm really hoping, is for those enter the battlefield abilities, because no matter what he casts Image on, Grim Lavamancer can shoot down the image with the trigger on.
Right.
And he's going for Phantasmal Image. Now, Jeff is thinking here, unless that Cavern is set to Illusion, Jeff could actually shoot down Freebooter and Mana Leak this.
Right.
And he's going to Nimble Obstructionist.
Cycle that to counter the bounce.
Yeah, because this is being set to Reflector Mage.
Yep.
And then Grim Lavamancer will shoot down the Meddling Mage. Delver transforms off Lightning Bolt. Ryan, it looks
That's a big deal for Jeff.
Jeff's going to get this game.
It's looking like it.
Make your way to the site of registration stage.
I mean, we saw this in his match against Jim Davis as well. Grim Lavamancer is a heck of a card in this matchup.
It's pretty close to Avatar of Woe.
Yeah. Swinging for 3, Graebner down to 9.
And one of the pressures for the Humans deck is to have one of those draws with Champion of the Parish, Thalia's Attendant, to try to get more things with 4 toughness online. If all of your creatures just have 3 toughness, Jeff has Lightning Bolts, Wizard's Lightning, is very heavy on that kind of effect, Snapcaster Mage to bring that all back. He can enter combat with the smaller creatures. He can take care of a lot of this stuff. And yeah, in these games where he draws a good mix of other creatures, the Grim Lavamancer, you don't have to sweat Reflector Mage that much. You'll be able to do something of value to push the Humans player off balance.
So we'll see the double block here with Reflector Mage. So Mutavault trades with Mage, and now Sam's board's down to just Kite Sail Freebooter. He's got a Noble Hierarch to go next to it. But 9 points apiece, and things are looking up for Jeff.
Yeah, that Freebooter, it technically represents an attack for 2. The Lavamancer is going to stop that from happening. Meanwhile, Jeff is just online with Insect Elaboration, and he has active Lavamancer. Just 3 hits from the insect itself. That's lethal.
Yeah.
Lavamancer currently has enough fuel for 2 shots. Pretty easy to make that 3.
Swings in and just says Bolt, Snap, Bolt. How about just do it in 1 turn? And Jeff Hoogland, Blue-Red Wizards, takes game 1.
It looked a little dicey when he was double cycling Remands, but
Yeah.
Grim Lavamancer really demonstrated his power in the matchup.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot going on here. On Graebner's side, the Militia Bugler looked really good in this matchup.
Yes.
So I do think he's got some tools, but we'll have to go ahead and see how that plays out. Looking at sideboards, let's look at Sam Graebner's side. You've been mentioning when we see Jeff's deck, it is flush on X1s, and in that situation, Sam has a lot of cards that play here.
Yeah, so the sideboard is 3 Sin Collector, 2 Gut Shot, 2 Ariok Champion, 2 is a Static Caster, 2 Selfless Spirit, a Kataki War's Wage, a Reclamation Sage, a Phantasmal Image, and a Dismember. Big one is going to be Izzet Static Caster for sure. That's just excellent against basically every creature that Jeff is bringing to the table. Gut Shot for much the same reason. Auriok Champion can be good in the matchup, though Jeff has a lot of flyers and blue creatures.
Right, that's what I say. The fact that Jeff's a Snapcaster Mage deck makes me a little hit or miss on Auriok Champion. If Jeff just has one sitting in play, I wouldn't like to trade that. However, when Jeff's shooting burn spells upstairs, I'm pretty into Auriok Champion.
Yeah, it's kind of a low floor, high ceiling kind of thing. I've had Humans players play this against me, and it's been very good. Other situations where it's just a 1-1, and I don't care about it. So you can kind of go either way on that one. The big one's going to be as a Static Caster, though.
Right. How do you feel about a card like Sin Collector? Jeff is about a deck with 20 spells here, but they're all pretty cheap.
Yeah, I kind of think about that is that they all cost 1. Sin Collector can be fine. I don't mind it in the matchup. It does cost 3. Jeff's stuff tends to be a lot more efficient than that. Though he does have to draw a critical mass of removal spells, so there's certainly an argument for it, and it can be very good in some spots.
Now, what we've seen out of Jeff's deck is in this kind of matchup, he'll likely board all his removal in, and he's got a lot of it.
Yeah, we have 2 Magma Spray, 2 Abrade, 2 Static Casters of his own, 2 Negate, 2 Disdainful Stroke, 2 Alpine Moon, a Roast, an Entrancing Melody, and a Dispel. Magma Spray and Abrade are slam dunks.
How do you feel about Staticaster, Roast, and Melody? I mean, that he could go up to 8. Those are all removal spells in some way.
Yeah.
He could go up to all 8 of them.
Jeff's Static Casters tend to be fine. His tend to be a little bit worse on the draw. They can be better on the play. I don't like as much as the other cards, but he has to cut a bunch of counter spells anyway, so that kind of thing should be coming in.
Jeff getting game 1 feels like a really big win. You look at this, 1 Spell Snare, 3 Remand, 3 Mana Leak. Jeff is more than happy to get to replace all of those.
Right, yeah, and the Roast should be quite good, and the Entrancing Melody is fine.
Right. Yeah, it's pretty weak, but then again, if I say, Spellstutter Sprite would be that is the 8th card that we're boarding out to make room for it. I'm not huge on Melody here, but I think it's better than Spellstutter Sprite.
And let's say that Sam has a draw where he just presents a bunch of early threats and somehow ends up with a 4/4 champion of the parish.
Right.
Entrancing Melody is going to be your out.
Yeah, now that'd actually be huge on that kind of game.
Right.
So if you hadn't had a chance to look at our weekly sale, today is our last day of the sale on Sunday. We're up to 25% off select promotional cards we see here. That goes on through today, but make sure you go ahead and take a look at it. Tomorrow morning we switch over to next week's sale.
I have owned a lot of that Progenitus and that Day of Judgment.
I was going to say that GP Progenitus. I want to see that. Remember Lotus Bloom when we used to get there was like this 2-year stretch where every pre-release foil was just a constructed staple.
Yes.
That was nice.
Batterskull, Maelstrom Pulse. There were some hits.
Yeah, it was like it was what Lotus Bloom Figure of Destiny, Demigod of Revenge. There's like Worm Coil. I'm mixing these all up, I'm sure.
Oh,
Like,
yeah, those are the release ones. Yeah.
yeah, we're just every pre-release you're just getting this constructed staple.
I went to college in a pretty small town, or F&M's, trended between 8 and 12 people. And during the stretch where Figure of Destiny was at a release promo, at least half of the field was just playing 4 Figure of Destinies.
Right. And we were talking about like, yeah, the pre-release promo used to be great. Was it Emrakul was one?
It was really funny because I just almost never saw a pack version of that card. It was just
Yeah.
the release promos in everybody's deck.
I remember talking with a lot of judges at that time because frequently there was, I believe, was it just the Bor? Just like a mono red deck, and people would have 4 foil figures and nothing else.
Yeah.
Like that was common. Jeff Mulligan is 6 here for game 2. His turn 1 Delver of Secrets is met by a shot in the gut from Sam Graebner's sideboard.
Now who is the control deck?
There we go. Here's Thalia. Boom.
This is a lot of stuff that was all in standard at the same time.
Delver's getting gut shot. We've
Yeah.
been here before.
Yeah.
Yes, we have. Thalia's Lieutenant pumps Thalia, and then Jeff will lightning bolt it. Sam should have misstepped back. That would have been.
He couldn't pay for the one with Thalia, so that was the choking point there.
All right.
Ugh, I cast a mental missteps from standard. That was gross.
You could always mutagenic growth. That's a good counter to gut shot.
Yeah. See, these cards are all fine. They play against each other.
Because they all cost 0.
It's fine.
No one ever played Marrow Shards. That was
That's
the
not,
one.
That, yeah. That sometimes. Not too much, though.
Sam here going to go for a replacement Thalia. Can't have a Lieutenant without the commander, see.
No.
Lieutenant gets a counter. Swings in for 2. No third land again from Graebner. He'll miss for the second turn.
Jeff shocked. Feels like a nimble obstructionist is. He's going to take to the air and try to race.
I like it. It's going to be hard. Sam's hand has Selfless Spirit, Noble Hierarch, Reflector Mage, and Militia Bugler, looks like.
A number of these cards just answer the obstructionist quite well.
Well,
There's a reasonable chance that Jeff is sitting
Yeah.
on more obstructionists. So if you try to Reflector Mage, you can cast another one in response if he has it.
well, look, if you Reflector Mage, he can always cycle it.
What a win for Jeff.
He's going to make Noble Hierarch here and Selfless Spirit. This is a lot of stuff coming into play.
Yeah, that Selfless Spirit, it's counterable, but I can't imagine that Jeff has counter spells in his deck right now.
No, he's really hoping, I would think, for if that's this 3 mana represents, is it Staticaster? That's pretty much the perfect world for Jeff.
Right, a lot of 1 toughness creatures over there.
But barring a Staticaster, this board has gotten very dicey for Jeff.
Yes. And he's not playing any copies of Electrolyze, though. That one is a bit mana intensive, so it makes sense.
I'm actually interested in that. We see another Nimble Obstructionist end step from Jeff. He looks like he does want to race back. Ryan, you played a lot of this blue-red deck. It feels like a tempo burn deck that you'd want Electrolyze in here, or is it not so much?
So the first builds of the deck that I played with played 2 copies of Electrolyze, and I was like, oh, this card's great. When I draw, it's very high impact. But the thing was, it just didn't actually fit the deck. So as I made the deck better, I cared less about drawing that. It just doesn't really work.
It's like the mana to damage ratio is just off.
It costs too much mana is the
Yeah.
thing. The deck just wants to be leaner.
So we see Wizard's Lightning pointed at Thalia's Lieutenant. Sam Graebner sacrifices Selfless Spirit. In response, Jeff bolts down that Thalia's Lieutenant and then attacks. Graebner to 8, Jeff to 10. Jeff is just going for a straight race, and right now he's winning it.
Yeah. And that Horizon Canopy is not doing Graebner any favors.
No Militia Bugler from Graebner. He will get an Auriok Champion, but I don't know that he can race back.
Yeah, and remember that Auriok Champion gains life off of creatures entering the battlefield. That's going to slow down a bit here.
Yeah, I mean, Sam was really hoping that this Militia Bugler found in Izzet Staticaster would be perfect on this board, but
I mean,
it did not.
Sam might just be dead.
Right. Oh, just like before he
Gets a chance
untaps?
on tap. Yeah, that Bugler hit might just not be a factor in this game.
Well, let's see Jeff playing off the top.
Looks like a Snapcaster
Is that
Mage.
it?
Yeah.
And it is Snapcaster Mage for Lightning Bolt, and Jeff Hoogland is going to move to 10-0. He is your undefeated player.
Yeah, and the Humans deck, it has a number of tools. I'm not sure about the way that Sam played game one. There's a couple decisions that he had. But the Wizards deck, it just has so many removal spells, and the Flyers are a big deal for Jeff. And, yeah, he's 10-0, and he picked a great deck for the tournament, and he is the only undefeated player left in the field.
All right. So, and that game's really interesting because I had expected, we've